Transformers 96 here, and this is my top 5 worst figures of 2012. So if you're watching this, it's either very late 2012 or it's right at 2013. And I decided to do this. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first time I've done a top worst video. I've done a top best video. I definitely did it last year, and I think I might have done it the year before. I'm not quite sure though. So so this is pretty interesting. So I just want you guys to keep in mind that I decided based on everything, all the factors of it, the actual look, the sculpt, the articulation, paint, and even the price. The price is important with these, because if you pay more, you should get a better figure. So that's what I looked on with these. And it's very hard to pick a top worst, because for the most part, I mean, unless you just buy toys randomly, you decide which ones you want based on how they look. And if they look good, and if you see the articulation and it seems good, you buy it. So you buy the ones that you're going to like. You don't buy the ones that you're not going to like. So that's why it's extremely hard to pick these top worst figures. So I will say that my 5th, 4th, and 3rd, they're not really like the worst figures. They're just very disappointing. I don't want you to get in mind that it was horrible figures. No, they're just disappointing. My 2 and 1, those I were really upset about. Just really didn't like those at all. So that's just want to keep that in mind, and so let's get started. Starting off at number 5, we have the Star Wars Vintage Series Jedi Anakin. So here you go. So this is from when he was a kid, and this figure was very disappointing for me. It wasn't fantastic. The face sculpt I really don't like. I don't think it looks very much like him at all. This was a figure that was taken off of like a 2-second scene, which isn't great, but that's not a huge problem. The sculpting and the articulation is actually pretty good, but you get so much less plastic with this guy than you do with the others in the wave, and I really wouldn't recommend it, and it's just not great. The eyes painted a little off too, so overall this was a very disappointing toy, but not horrible, but it was disappointing. So now let's go to number 4. At number 4, we have the Men in Black 3 3¼ inch scale figure Agent K. Really disappointing. The sculpt is just the exact same thing as Agent J, just repainted the hands, and the face sculpt's different. Face sculpt's decent, but other than that, nothing really fun. It's a pretty boring figure overall. Not a lot of cool stuff you can do with it, and if you're asking why I picked this guy over Agent J, because pretty much the same flaws, Agent J came with a few more accessories a few better accessories, and so that's why I picked this guy. Really did not like him and wouldn't recommend him. At number 3, we have a pack of figures. This is the Star Wars 5-pack of Speed Racers. Really disappointed. I was actually looking very forward to this pack, and they just turned out to be old sculpts. If I'm not mistaken, all of these were previously released like 10-20 years ago, well, 10 years ago, and overall, just really did not like them. They all had horrible articulation except for the one that's in the back. They all cannot stand up for the life of them. They have been knocked over so many times on my shelf, it's not even funny. It was very hard to get them to stand up, and I just really do not like them. They're a crappy set. They just took some old figures and repackaged them and sent them out. Overall, highly do not recommend this pack. The number 2 spot rightfully goes to the Transformers Prime Arachnid. Overall, I knew that this figure was going to be bad, or at least I heard it was going to be bad. But the paint scheme looked pretty good to me, so I thought that I'd give it a shot, and because I try to buy all the Transformer Prime characters. Overall, it was horribly disappointing. I knew it was going to be bad, but it was even worse in person. Just an absolute horrible Transformer. The helicopter is decent. The actual robot is horrific. The arms just look really bad. It's very rigid character, so all the articulation points barely move. She barely has any leg articulation. It's very hard to get her to stand, and her claws are supposed to hang over her. They don't even stay. They pop right out as soon as you pop them in, so they are worthless. The only thing that's good for them is to help her stand in the back. A horrible toy with articulation that's got good points, but they're so hindered, and the actual sculpt is awful with a big back piece of a helicopter on her back. She looks awful, and she is an awful figure, rightfully deserving the spot number 2. And the worst figure of 2012, in my opinion, goes to the 3¾ Avengers Chitauri Soldier. Really horrible. This was one that I was so excited for. It looked amazing. The product pictures looked awesome. Was super excited for it. Wanted to get a whole bunch of them, and got it in my hand and realized how horrible he was. This is one of the first Hasbro 3¼ modern figures that have come out that has no elbow or knee articulation. It doesn't get worse than this, with already having the cut, no wrist or waist articulation. Really horrific when it comes to articulation. You can't do anything with this piece of crap, and it is just a horribly done figure. Sculpt-wise is halfway decent. The paint is very dull in most places, and overall just rightfully deserving the #1 spot. I was really disappointed. I was really looking forward to this guy, and he just turned out horrible. So that is my top 5 worst toys of 2012, in my opinion. Of course, I did not buy all the toys of 2012, and I was buying toys that I thought I would like. So these happen to be the 5 most disappointing or worst toys, in my opinion. Please tell me which ones you guys agree with me on, disagree with me on, and I would love to hear your top 5 worst figures, or top 10, whatever you want to do, worst figures of 2012. Just really awful. I mean, trying to get them all into a group pose. The pod racers kept falling over, his or her, I don't even know. That person's arm kept falling off. Just horrible. So overall, that's my top 5 worst figures of 2012. Thanks for watching.